motion to start the meeting? Is there
John
a-
Beltran, I motion to open the meeting of July 1st.
I'll second that.
2013.
I'll second that.
That's all right there.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And present,
Susan Elwell.
John Beltran.
Charlie Costello, Chairman.
Frank Markey, Chairman.
And so, tonight, to start our meeting, as we've started to have a information package or a little bit of information time before each meeting, we have our mosquito control, Massachusetts mosquito control and wetland management representative, our company that helps us control mosquitoes in town. There is an entomologist that they have, their primary entomologist, Esteban Coulibares Oncle, and we've worked with him for many years, sorry to butcher your name, and he is a professional and understands the life cycle of these insects that we're all fighting every day now and will for the next 3 or 4 months. And so Esteban's going to talk to us about that and how we together with them are working to protect us from the insects and the possible diseases that they carry. Esteban,
Thank you very much, Mr.
30
Costello.
minutes.
Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me, and I'm very happy and honored to be speaking to this board this evening. My presentation usually includes...
Would it be helpful, Esteban, if you stood that way and you could kind of go back and forth to his slides? Would that be better? So
All right, so I'll move
let's
up
go
here.
over there.
Okay.
Move Frank's seat out.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I'll move to the back when I'm
Whatever
doing
you,
the slides.
yeah, whatever, oh,
I'm doing the slides, so...
oh.
That's
Well,
okay, that's okay. We'll start here, Just don't fall asleep. All right, when I usually give this presentation, I usually focus first on the mosquitoes, the oddities, and the abundance of mosquitoes, and then talk about the key diseases that we're concerned about. But it usually takes up to an hour, and I know time is limited. So what I'm going to do is focus tonight just on the protection part. How you can protect your person, things you can do to protect your property, and finally to protection for the entire community. So that's what I'm going to be talking to this evening. So let's start off. Let's see if I can reach this here. Where did I push the wrong button?
Oh, there you got it.
There we go. Let me use the pointer here and show you what's
Yep.
going on here. This is our district, which encompasses all of Essex County, plus Revere and Winthrop, which is part of Suffolk County. Now, with this map, let's begin with the yellow here. We'll start at the bottom of the legend. These 3 towns here, Essex, Gloucester, and Rockport, are not members of the program. So we don't know what's going on there.
That's
Also-
by choice?
Hmm?
They're,
That's by choice, yeah. Because to become a member of the district, the towns have to decide. They either have a town warrant, whatever. We're, as I like to say, we're a quasi-state agency in the sense that my check says Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But the funding for all our programs comes from the cities and towns that subscribe to our services. Those 3 towns had some interest this year, but finally they elected not to join. Same thing here with Lawrence, okay? Now, the towns that are in white here, these towns, we did not pick up any virus last year. Doesn't mean that there wasn't any virus, it's just that we didn't
And by
detect it.
virus, you mean West Nile?
West Nile and Tripoli virus.
Yeah.
Okay? The towns in red were towns in which we had only West Nile virus picked up in mosquitoes. Okay? The towns in blue were towns that we picked up only Tripoli virus. Tripoli stands for Eastern Equine Encephalitis Virus. And here is our fair town of Rowley. And as you can see, it's in blue because we picked up Tripoli here at the end of last summer. The towns with hash marks like Georgetown and Amesbury, these were the only 2 towns where we had human fatalities last year due to Eastern Equine Encephalitis. So that's the picture last year. Those are the viruses that are circulating, and these are what we know are called mosquito-borne arboviruses. They're mosquitoes that transmit the virus from wherever they picked it up into a human being. So let's talk a little bit about the transmission cycle of Tripoli and West Nile, because the cycle is basically the same. The viruses may be different, but the pattern is the same. These viruses, like the one that's pictured there, are actually viruses that are normally found in birds. These are bird viruses. And the birds get the viruses from a mosquito bite. So the virus infects the bird, the virus builds up its number or amplifies its number in this host, and then comes another mosquito, bites the bird, picks up the virus, and then the cycle just continues to repeat itself between mosquito, bird, mosquito, bird. Now the birds generally don't suffer from any obvious signs and symptoms of the infection that we know of, okay? Now what happens where we get involved is that when other mosquitoes, now before I go on, this mosquito vector, which is called an enzootic vector, is what we call an animal-to-animal vector or a carrier. Problems with us happen when we encounter bridge vectors. These are the mosquitoes that transmit the virus from an animal to a human host. So these are animal-to-human vectors. That's what's shown in this particular picture here. Now they point to these people as dead-end hosts. What dead-end host means is that the virus, when it gets into this person, can never leave the person. None enough virus particles are produced so for a mosquito to pick up the virus from that person. So really, from the perspective of the mosquito, from the perspective of the virus, it doesn't want to get into the human host because it can never leave. It's a dead end for the virus. Unfortunately, when we get infected, and for circumstances that were not really clear, some of us get sick from it, as well as horses also get the same infection, and we'll get very sick, and in many cases we die from it. Horses get the same infection. However, you don't get an infection from a horse. People have often asked me, can a person get infected with Triple E if they come to a sick horse? The answer is no. Okay? What happens is that none of the virus is being produced in the horse's blood so that we come in contact with it, we can get infected. Okay? Now, a few words about the mosquito. This particular one here is a common one in this area. This is the larger salt marsh mosquito, and these are other mosquitoes that we find. And as you can see, they're quite different. They all don't look the same. They have an amazing assortment of shapes and colors and scale patterns, which gives them each species a unique appearance. This is Culex pipiens. It's a vector primarily of West Nile virus, but it can also transmit Triple E virus as well. And this is a female that has just finished getting a blood meal. Her abdomen is swollen with blood. And what she'll do then, after she's finished sucking the blood, she flies away, finds some place to rest, digest the meal, and then start the life cycle once again.
By laying eggs?
We'll get to that right now.
Now, is it only females who bite us?
In mosquitoes, it's only the females. Yes, the males do not bite blood.
Just like in humans?
This is being recorded now, so you better
I know.
have a disclaimer.
You're on tape,
I'm
Charlie.
only kidding.
All right. Let's begin with the female adult. She's just finished a blood meal. She's digested the blood. She's taken the necessary proteins from that blood to pass on to her eggs, and now she lays her eggs. All right, and the eggs are laid in association with water. With this particular species, Culex pipiens, it's always going to be an actual body of water, usually water that has contained a lot of debris, a lot of decaying material. It's water that if you get to it, you take a whiff of it, it stinks.
Fresh
It's
water.
rank.
Be fresh water.
Well, it's fresh water, right? Okay. They do not breed in salt water. They don't
That's
breed in
correct.
anything associated with salt water. Right? It's strictly fresh water. But this fresh water is smelly, rank, disgusting smelling. Okay. The eggs are deposited on the surface of the water. After about 2 days to 3 days, depending on the temperature, those eggs will hatch, and they'll hatch into the larva. And that's the form that we sometimes see wiggling in the water. We call those wigglers. Now, why is that water rank and smelly favorable for the species? Well, when those eggs hatch, they're surrounded by water that's full of bacteria, because in decaying water, you'll have a lot of bacteria. And that's basically food for the little babies. So this insect is actually expressing parental care. Okay? So, she lays the eggs, the water, the larva hatch, the larva will feed the bacteria, and they'll be around for maybe a week, maybe 10 days, depending on the temperature. When they finish their larval development, they then form this stage called the pupa.
We've heard about dragonflies eating mosquito larvae. Is that a fact?
No, they only eat the larva. The dragonfly nymphs that live in the water will eat the mosquito larva, but the dragonfly adults, they're not going to go into the water. They're going to be going after the adults. Okay? The pupa is very much like a cocoon in a butterfly. Okay? It's in that pupa where this magical transformation takes place, where the larval tissues break down and the adult tissues begin to develop.
How many days between?
Well, the larva could be anywhere from a week to 10 days, maybe 2 weeks, depending on the temperature. The warmer the temperature, the faster the development. The pupal stage will be about 3 days. Okay? Again, depending on the temperature, maybe as short as a day, but usually 2 to 3 days. Notice that you have these structures making contact with the surface of the water. These are sometimes called ear trumpets, but they're not really ears. They're tubes for the pupa to breathe, because these creatures, even though they're living in the water, have to breathe the atmospheric air. So they always have to make contact with the surface. That's why in the old days, they used to pour in kerosene in freshwater swamps.
Yeah.
Okay? The kerosene would form a film on top of the surface of the water, blocking the passage of oxygen into the pupa, and the mosquitoes would die. We can't do that anymore. Okay, so the pupa survive, and from the pupa emerges the adult. After, the adults take about a day to complete their maturity. So they'll be inactive for a day or so, and then they'll mate, and then the females will start looking for blood meal, and the cycle repeats itself. Now, we've got these mosquitoes out there that are active right now. Not all mosquito species bite humans, okay? But some do. So how do we reduce the risk of getting bit by these mosquitoes, and more importantly, how do we reduce the risk of getting infected by the viruses that they might be transmitting? So how do we protect ourselves? And I organize the rest of this presentation into 3 categories of protection. First is personal protection, how to protect your person from having mosquitoes come into contact with you. Secondly, how do you protect your property from being sources of breeding for mosquitoes? And finally, what I call peripheral. What happens from your neighbor's yard to your neighborhood to your entire town? How is protection from mosquitoes occurring in that particular realm of the world? So I'm going to go into all these 3. Personal protection. Well, the first thing to protect yourself from mosquitoes is not going out when they're out. Avoid going outside when they're most active. For the West Nile virus mosquito vectors, the biting time is usually from the late afternoon to the middle of the evening. That's when they're most active, that's when they're going to be biting. So you're going to avoid going out. But of course, we live for the summer. I mean, after the miserable winters we've been spending the last couple of years, we're dying for the summer to come. And when the summer arrives, we want to be outside, we want to be enjoying living in an area that has temperate climate, that has a wonderful place to be living. You want to be outside. And here comes these damn mosquitoes. So, yeah, you're going to go outside. So what do you do next? Well, if you're going to be outside during the peak biting time, you have to wear insect repellent. There's no other way around it.
What's your preference for types of?
Well, the experts, and I agree with them, is anything that has DEET in it. Usually about 30% DEET.
Is 30% enough, or there are some that have 60?
The experts are saying that 30% is adequate. The more DEET is not going to significantly increase your protection.
And you apply it directly on your skin?
Yeah. Apply it directly on your skin. You can use a spray. You can use a bottle of liquid and apply it onto you. The thing with these repellents is that in the summertime, you're going to have to repeat the applications. Because once you're outside and once you're active for even up to an hour, you're going to have to reapply the material. Because it evaporates, because it loses its potency after it's been exposed to the air. So you're going to have to constantly, repeatedly apply this material, especially during the times of extreme heat or extreme activity. Because if you're very, very active and you're sweating, the sweat and the evaporation is going to evaporate also the DEET. So you're going to have to apply it more frequently. When you go swimming, when you come back out, you're going to have to spray yourself. During periods that's very hot, even if you're doing nothing, you're gonna have to repeatedly apply the material onto you.
And by repeatedly, you mean hourly?
At least maybe once an hour, yeah.
Okay.
Now, again, you don't have to do this from morning to night, okay? These mosquitoes, as I said, are most
8
active from
times.
the mid-afternoon to the early middle of the evening. That's the time you're going to be applying if you're going to be outside. Now, if you don't like to have repellent, and I know people say, oh, it's sticky, or I like the smell.
Repellent.
Yeah.
Um,
You take up bowling.
Well, you can make sure that you're fully clothed, that you always have a long sleeve shirt on, that you have pants on. Go fully clothed, or you can wear a net hat, and that will keep the mosquitoes from biting your face. So with personal protection, really, the products that are on the market are pretty good. Are they the best that there is? No. So far, no one has come up with the best repellent, the perfect repellent yet. So this is what we have, and there's really nothing better. People come to me swearing about cloves of garlic, lemon oil,
Lavender, I've heard
lavender, cinnamon. I tell those people, if they work for you, fine, but they have not been proven. They have not been shown via scientific testing to work in effectively repelling mosquitoes. So this is what's out there. Now, on your property, what do you have to do to make sure they don't get onto your property and get into your house, for example? You want to reduce the presence on your property. You want to eliminate breeding on your property. And by eliminate breeding, I'm going to show you in the next couple of slides how to scout for breeding sites, how to look for those containers that are holding water and get rid of them, and what you can do to prevent larvae, mosquito larvae, from developing in permanent structures on your property. So let's begin with reducing their presence. This sounds obvious, but it's amazing how many people don't do this. Make sure your windows have screens on it. Make sure your porches are screened. And make sure there are no holes in the screens. This is a house in Methuen that happened to be next door to a property I was inspecting, and it has screens and all that. When you look closely at the screens, they had these horrendous tears in the screens. And frankly, I don't know what purpose they were serving, because they were definitely going to not stop mosquitoes. And in fact, you have to check when you put your screens onto your windows, then make sure that the screens are perfectly flushed with the window. Because if there's any little gaps, if there's a little gap in this corner here, the mosquitoes will find it and they'll get through and they'll get into your house.
Because the mosquitoes are attracted to the carbon dioxide,
Yeah,
right? So they're trying to come into the house.
right. They detect, well, some species will go indoors no matter what. And when they go inside, then they start looking for a host. And as you said, they will look for, or they will try to detect the carbon dioxide that we emit. That's going to be their homing beacon to go on to you. All right? So again, look for screens and look for the holes and patch up the holes. Don't leave these horrendous holes in your screens, because you're going to let the mosquitoes in.
Now, Esteban, you have about 15 more minutes.
Yeah, okay.
Just
All right.
not to push you.
Okay. Now, people have asked me about mosquito magnets, okay? And my answer is always the same. Mosquito magnets work. They work very well, but they
I
do
see
not...
that maybe.
Hmm?
I see that maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they work. They work very well. But they do not solve your mosquito problems, all right? If you think that your mosquito problems are solved because you got a mosquito magnet, I don't think so. Let me explain why. That mosquito magnet is working like our surveillance traps in the sense that it's releasing carbon dioxide. It is releasing huge amounts of carbon dioxide. So you're not only attracting mosquitoes around your house, you're attracting mosquitoes around the entire neighborhood, and they're coming right into your property. And here's the thing, if you happen to be outside when that magnet is running, and they're flying towards the magnet, and they detect you, they're going to go to you. Because we're releasing chemicals from our skin, like lactic acid, that they use to hone in to make sure they're going after the exact host. Because a lot of animals release CO2, but mosquitoes don't feed on all the animals. They feed on specific animals. And how they can tell is because of the additional chemicals that we produce. So, the ideal use would be to have everybody, everyone have one on their property. Now, I don't know if the town of Raleigh is rich enough to give everyone a mosquito magnet. If you are, then God bless you, I mean, that's wonderful. You're doing that, you're helping control mosquito problems. But I don't think that's the reality. So here's what I tell people. If you got a magnet, if you're gonna have an activity in your house, a picnic, birthday party, place that magnet in the furthest corner of your property and then leave it on for several days, and then just before the event, shut it off, okay? Because at least you've gotten rid of a lot of mosquitoes in the area, and then when you shut it off, there's nothing to immediately attract them, so that they won't be bothering your guests.
Good idea.
And so you can try that. Eliminate mosquito breeding. You have to look for the permanent structures that hold water in your property and try to get rid of the water that's accumulating inside there. Do it regularly. What do I mean? Things like bird baths, urns, inactive fountains, gutters, unused swimming pools. These are permanent structures that are going to hold water, and you're going to have to find ways to try to eliminate the water on a regular basis. Once a week, once every 10 days. Don't let that water stand for any extended period, that then the mosquitoes are going to lay their eggs and allow for breeding to occur. Here's a bird bath that I found up in Amesbury. It had some water in there. It's been sitting there for quite some time. I used a dipper to collect some of the water, and lo and behold, we have mosquito larvae. So if you can drain that at least once a week, just use a hose and get rid of that water once a week, that will help. If your property collects water on the ground, you have to find a way to drain that water. Now, if it's after a heavy rain like we had today, and it's there for a day or two and then disappears and never again, fine, there's no problem. But if you have a wet spot on your property that continues to hold water, you gotta find a way to drain it. Because if not, you're gonna have mosquitoes breeding there. If you have some sort of structure that's holding back the flow of water over a ditch, get rid of that structure, allow that water to flow. If you have trees with these huge holes, okay, these tree holes here, mosquitoes will breed in that. There's specific species that breed only in tree holes. So you wanna look for those and drain them. This was a ditch in Amesbury, and it was covered with leaves. It looks like it wasn't very deep. We pressed a dipper into that mass of wet leaves and found that there was plenty of water in there. And this was the water we collected. And all those dots you see there are mosquito pupa. In other words, those are adults. Adults will be emerging from there within a day or two. And usually at that point, there's not much you can do for treatment. You gotta find ways to eliminate any container that holds water. Any container that holds water. Jars, bottles, cans, discarded tires. Don't ask me why people like to hold on to discarded tires in their backyards. But you gotta get rid of those. Kiddie pools, pool covers. All these structures are excellent at holding water. And they'll hold water for some time, allowing the water to age, creating the perfect breeding ground for Culex pipiens mosquitoes. This was a property in West Newbury. The owner, for some reason, had I think he had some sort of disagreement with his wife. And it escalated into this big argument, and escalated into all this debris being shoved all around the property.
That looks like your bag.
No, it looks like yours, mine's clean.
Anyway, the property has been cleaned up because the Board of Health asked us to look into this to see if they could declare it a public health menace. And they were going to take the guy to court. He did clean up the property, and everything's been resolved. But again, there are properties that look that bad. All these containers are all going to be holding water. They're all going to be breeding mosquitoes. This was a tire shoved underneath a stairway into a pool. And if you look into that tire, there's water in there. And you collect that water, lo and behold, mosquito larvae. All right, so again, you got to get rid of those tires. Now, if you insist on holding tires in your backyard for whatever reason, then drill a couple of holes into them to drain that water. Don't let those tires collect water. This was a...
Has any of this, excuse me, has any of this information been published where it could hit, newspapers or magazines or stuff that might be
well,
a bigger venue for you guys than this?
This is a big venue right here.
Well, it's not as big as perhaps it could be.
well, I go to a number of towns and I give this presentation.
Yeah.
It's been some places they record it and make the DVD available to people. So yeah, I mean, try to get the message out, but sometimes people just don't listen. As you know. This is a pet feeder, water container that was left outside when these people disappeared, and it collected water, it collected debris, and of course, there are all the mosquito larvae in there. So. You have to search, drain, and clean any structures that accidentally hold water. Like, for example, boats. There are people who store boats in their backyards. They don't cover the boats or they don't turn them over. And what happens is that they're going to breed mosquitoes. One of the hardest things I know for people to do is go up into the rain gutter and clean those gutters. Everyone hates doing that, but those gutters, as you can see, can easily accumulate all kinds of debris, and the water can then be backed up, and in that water are mosquitoes breeding. This was a boat in someone's backyard. There was a little bit of water collected at the bottom. I went and sampled that water, and look and behold, we have mosquito larvae. So, if you have structures on your property and you can't get rid of the water, you have to find ways of preventing larvae from developing in those structures. If you have a fountain, keep the fountain active, because water that's moving, mosquitoes will not breed in that water, okay? It's got to be an active fountain. You've got to keep it on as much as possible to keep mosquitoes from breeding in that. If you have fish ponds, well, it'd be nice if you kept those ponds stocked with fish. Because if you have fish, they're going to eat the mosquito larva. No mosquito larva is going to survive that. So if you have a fish pond, put fish in it. I mean, they will eat the mosquito larva, rest assured. If you have structures and you can't drain the water, there are products available that you can add to that water that will kill the mosquito larva. And the best product is something called mosquito dunks. And there are a number of manufacturers that make them, and you can get them in any hardware store. And what happens is that these dunks, these either briquettes, they can be the form of donuts, briquettes, you drop them in the water, what happens, these briquettes begin to break down and release bacteria. And it's the bacteria that when the mosquitoes eat the bacteria, it kills the mosquitoes. It's Bacillus thuringiensis, BTI.
Oh, so it's the same thing?
Yeah.
You
Exactly.
spray over the salt?
Exactly. But here you can do them right on your own property, okay? And they'll work for at least maybe 2, 3, 4 weeks, you know. If you notice the dunk has completely disappeared, if you notice larvae there, drop another dunk in there. In fact, if you do it just once a month on a regular basis, that should help keep the numbers to a minimum, or maybe not, you won't have any mosquitoes at all. You apply those regularly to bird baths and to rain barrels. People like to collect rainwater, well, the mosquitoes are going to breed in those. So you drop one of those in there, that will control the mosquitoes. Now, what about beyond your property? Because no matter how well you have your property under control, you've done everything that I told you to do. What about your neighbor? What about in front of in front of your house, the street in front of your house? What about your community? Are people around you as good as you are in protecting the property, or they're slobs and losers who
Slow down now,
Oh,
Esther.
all right. Because of course there's no one like that up here.
Now, you have 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay,
About 10.
Here's what I'm talking about to be more specific. I'm not picking on the sloppy people.
Yeah.
I'm picking on those areas like wetlands and pound boundaries. Who has jurisdiction for that? Junkyards and tire piles. Whose jurisdiction does that fall under? Foreclosed homes. Who's going to be checking those? Retention ponds, catch basins. Who's going to be looking into those areas for mosquito control? This is where you need help from professionals. Now, you can contract private companies. They tend to just stay at the homeowner level. They're not going to go beyond the homeowners. So they're going to operate just looking at your property, and they'll try to sell you a contract to do something there. Then there are the public community supported operations. These operate at the home level all the way to the community level. And these constitute the Massachusetts Mosquito Control Projects and districts, like the people I work with. They are state overseen but community supported. Let me emphasize, the state sort of oversees, but it's the communities, the cities and towns that support our operations. It's the boards of health in all our towns that tell us what we should be doing, all right? We make recommendations.
With your recommendations.
Right. We make the recommendations to you. You tell us if you want to follow through or if you don't. So people have the notion that we're like the German army marching through Poland. We just go and we do whatever we want. We cannot do that. Legally, we can't do that. We respond to the requests and concerns of the boards of health of all our communities. In Northeast Massachusetts, the individual municipalities subscribe for our services. You have the choice. In some counties, like Plymouth County, you have to belong to a mosquito control district. You don't have any choice about that. But here you do have a choice. My employer, the Northeast Massachusetts Mosquito Control District, this is what we do. We keep track of what's out there. We offer property inspection services. We also offer mosquito control services on the properties. We will do some larviciding. We will check the property. If you have larvae breeding on the property, we'll show you what's going on. If we have the material with us, we will treat the property. We'll treat the area to control the mosquitoes. We also do adulticiding, but the extent of the adulticiding depends on the town. And with Raleigh, the Board of Health in Raleigh, if you want to have spraying down your property, you have to contact the Board of Health. And then the Board of Health contacts us. Okay, that's the agreement we have with your town. We have an active surveillance program. That's really the reason why I'm hired. We do bi-weekly collections of mosquitoes from our traps from May through September. This year we're going to probably go until October. All the mosquitoes, every single mosquito we collect in our traps is identified, it's tallied, and I keep track of the trends that I'm seeing that's going on. We'll make recommendations based on the data to our cities and towns. If we see mosquito species of a certain kind increasing, we may recommend to do some sort of control activity. But again, it's based on science, and then we confirm with the Board of Health. We recommend, and you tell us what you want done. We also collect the mosquito species that are the usual suspects for transmitting virus, and we send those to the Department of Public Health for testing. The results of that testing, if there's virus that's been detected, we will then discuss with the Board of Health as to what you want to have done next.
What's the time frame for the test and you getting notified?
We collect our mosquitoes Mondays and Wednesdays. We package the mosquitoes on Wednesdays to be sent to the Department of Public Health. They get it on Thursday. They start the testing process on Thursday, and you can have the results as early as Friday. So we and DPH have done really good in streamlining and making the process very efficient and timely.
And we've had many years of quick turnaround
Yeah.
and treatment if necessary.
Yeah. On the category of inspections, here's an abandoned property that I went to inspect in Methuen. The concern was the swimming pool that was there. Okay, the homeowners have left. They left the swimming pool there, and it's full of water. But surprisingly, there were no mosquito larvae. And what happened? That pool has been out there for so long, it's become an artificial pond. So you have all kinds of creatures living in that pool that you can only find in the pond. And a lot of these creatures include insects that eat mosquito larvae. So no mosquito larvae was going to survive in there. To me, the greatest danger of that pool was the pool itself. I mean, there was no fence around the property. Any kid could have gone in there, gone into that pool, and they could drown. You know, I was more concerned with the pool as a pool rather than the mosquitoes. Now, checking around the property, I looked at this wheelbarrow underneath this covering here, and there was a lot of junk in there, and water had collected. I collected the water, and lo and behold, we had mosquito larvae. In fact, that yard was loaded with all kinds of receptacles and containers, all kinds of junk there, all kinds of things collecting water, and we had mosquitoes. So that's the problem with abandoned properties. Not so much sometimes the swimming pool, it's everything else that's left behind. Topsfield, we have this pool. Again, it was abandoned. The cover eventually came down. In that kind of a situation is where you're going to have mosquitoes breeding, because the water is shallow, there's no other predators there, and the mosquitoes will breed because there's all kinds of material left behind that will provide food for the larvae. Again, it's all these little nooks and crannies that are holding water that becomes the problem. We do major larviciding operations. We will treat for mosquito control the freshwater wetlands. We do that by hand. We also treat the salt marsh with bacteria, and we do that with a helicopter.
And you're doing that now?
We did it last week. Yeah, we did it early last week. We treated the salt marsh. All right.
And how is the season going this year? What do you think?
Well, there's been a lot of salt marsh mosquitoes out there.
Yeah.
But it's because of all the rain we're having, the changes in the usual pattern of rainfall, together with the storms that are in the sea that forces the ocean waters higher into the salt marsh. We've had a lot more breeding going on there than usual. You know, so we've had to do already two
So
major.
the increased saline or salt water coming into the salt marsh helps the mosquitoes?
It helps the salt marsh mosquitoes because the salt marsh
That's what I
mosquitoes are adapted to breeding in brackish water.
Okay.
So again, it's not the lower, it's the upper reaches of the salt marsh that get flooded at the high tides.
Yeah,
And, or they get flooded when you have a very heavy rainfall, and the mosquitoes that were in the dry mud, the mud becomes wet, those eggs hatch, and that's the problem. Catch basins are probably the most important source for mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus. So we try to treat all the catch basins in all our cities and towns as early and get them all done, because there's a lot of catch basins. Here in Raleigh, we completed our treatment of the basins last week. We treated them, all the basins, with a product called 4-Star, which consists of 2 bacterial species. And the formulation has been designed to give treatment up to 180 days. So that's why they were treated early in the year. Theoretically, we don't have to come back to treatment because the material should last to the rest of the summer.
Even
Now-
though there have been heavy rains?
Well, if you get a real heavy rain that washes all the water out of that catch basin, then you would have to retreat. at
and
that
you will,
point.
under our contract?
Let's hope so. I mean, we got a lot of cities and towns.
Wait a second, I don't like that answer. Well, let's get a clarification on that.
We will
Because
do the
we've had a
best
lot
we
of
can.
rain.
We'll do the best we can. Right now, the basins are holding that water, okay? If you have continuous rainfall, that the water then starts getting flushed out of those basins, okay? Then there's a possibility that we will have to treat those again. And again, it depends on all the other cities and towns we have and where you stand in the priority. At least we treated, we
Well,
got treated
as far
now.
as we're concerned, we stand number 1.
Okay, you say so.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Anyway, we'll talk.
All right, that's larviciding. We also do adulticiding, the ground-based truck spray. We do that primarily now in response to virus detections, okay? We do have residence requests in some of our cities and towns, but most of the cities and towns want spraying only when there's virus being detected. The applications are done depending on the time of the summer, either at the neighborhood level or sometimes the entire city or town. Again, it depends on the time of year, depends on our surveillance numbers, what's the population's looking like. Do we need to do the whole town, or can we just do that particular neighborhood? Right, depends on the time of the summer.
And this is usually in the end of the summer, kind of August.
Traditionally, it's
September.
always been from the middle of August on to the end of September. But with the summers lasting longer now, I mean, the last couple of years, we've got warm weather going up to the middle of October now. You know, the springs are starting later, but the summers are ending later. And we may have to continue doing something right to the very end. Again, with the truck sprays, it has to be with the approval of you guys. The purpose is to reduce the numbers of mosquitoes, to reduce the risk of infection. That's what we're doing. We're reducing risk. Some people have the notion that we're trying to eliminate the risk. No, that's an impossibility. We're not trying to eradicate all the mosquitoes. That's impossible. We can't do that for a whole bunch of reasons. We're trying to reduce the risk. That's the key here, to make it a little safer. But you still have to practice all those prevention measures that I mentioned before. People somehow think that when you say it's truck spraying, this is what they think of. The truck going down the street and all that white smoke pouring up and all the little kids running inside the smoke and jumping around. We all did that, right? Come on, fess up, fess up.
We did.
We did.
DGT.
You know, and we're still alive. Though, to be honest with you, all that smoke is due to the diesel, okay? What happened was that you had to burn the diesel to get the material, either with DDT or later on malathion, because they're not soluble in water. They're soluble in oil. So you had to burn that oil and then get into the atmosphere, okay? We don't do that no more. We don't do that anymore. This is how we spray. We use something called ultra-low volume. It's a little gadget here in the back of the spray truck, and it releases a very fine mist. Normally, you can't see that mist. I had to get the truck to spray in the daytime in the sunlight so you could see something of a cloud there. But it's a very, very fine mist. How fine? The particles of that mist are of a size of 15 to 20 microns. And if you remember, a micron is 1/1000th of a millimeter. Right? So we're talking about very, very fine products.
20 microns is a human hair.
Yeah, the thickness of a human hair. Yeah. All right, so it's only something even smaller than that. All right, and because we can release such a fine mist, we use less product. Less than 1 fluid acre of insecticide covers
1
an
fluid
acre.
ounce.
Hmm?
1 fluid ounce.
I'm sorry, 1 fluid ounce. I'm sorry. 1 fluid ounce covers about an acre. So we're using less material to cover more area. And the applications are done at night because the material that we use, it breaks down in sunlight. So we spray at night. And that's when the mosquitoes are active, at night. People have concern about the bees. Well, the bees are generally not active at night. So they're not going to be pollinating or anything at night. And I tell people, if you have hives, and if our truck spray trucks are going to be somewhere near there, you may want to cover up the hives just to be on the safe side. Take-home messages, finally. I remind people that we are the ones that are the invaders. We're the squatters in their territory. They set the rules. We must obey. Because you know that when we've tried to set the rules onto nature, we've paid for it dearly. So we got to know that nature has its rules and we have to obey. We have to somehow make some compromises with it. Secondly, people need to take the time to ensure that yourselves and your loved ones are protected when going outside. It's common sense, but sometimes people don't think that way. Beware of what's going on in your backyard and take the necessary actions. So take the time to look around. Check what's going on. If you see containers holding water, get rid of those containers. Climb up that ladder, get to those gutters, clean those gutters, because you're going to have mosquitoes breeding there. And finally, keep informed on mosquito and arbovirus announcements in your town, and support the efforts for control. And my time is over. I thank you for yours. There's our website, there's our office phone number if you need to contact us for any questions or concerns. Be my guest. Give us a call. Thank you very much for your attention.
Escobar, thank you
Thank you.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank
It's a lovely presentation.
And it's been a long day, so I get a little tongue twisted here, so my
You're fine. That
apologies.
was
You did a
good.
very good job. It's very good.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, how high do mosquitoes fly?
Let's put it this way. When I lived in Puerto Rico, we had an apartment on the 8th floor, and the mosquitoes used to get up there. Now, I don't think that they flew up directly. They probably
The
should have.
elevator.
They probably, hopscotch, on the way up,
Yeah.
But they can fly up, maybe up to 100 feet or so. I will tell you this, the salt marsh mosquitoes can fly a distance of 25 miles,
Oh my
and
goodness.
that's been proven. They've actually had studies in which they mark the mosquitoes with a little bit of dye, let them go, and they set up traps 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 miles, and they've actually picked up mosquitoes with the dye 25 miles away. All right? Not all mosquitoes do that. The Culex pipiens, their flight range is maybe about a mile at the most. The mosquito transmits triple E from bird to bird. That mosquito has a flight range of maybe a quarter of a mile. Okay, so different species have different flight ranges. All right, but again, they'll fly as high as a tree, maybe even higher. Again, they don't want to get too high because then they'll get picked up by the winds, and who knows where they're going to end up.
From your experience,
Mhm.
what kind of year do you think we're going to have? Based on, here we are into July, so what's coming?
Let me begin with a disclaimer. I get paid to be a pessimist. I think it's my job to always be pessimistic, to always be on the alert. I never want to take it easy and think that I'm in for an easy year, because when that happened, that's when West Nile virus first appeared. So, having said that, seeing all the viruses that we've been picking up in Essex County in the last 2 to 3 years, every year now, we're setting records in the number of mosquitoes that we're picking up infected, and the number of towns that are coming back infected. I would say that I'm concerned. I'm concerned. If all this rain stops and now we go into a drought period, the mosquitoes that transmit West Nile virus love droughts. They do very well in droughts. Their populations usually go up in droughts. And that's because their breeding sites, all those areas that have drying water that has a lot of debris, a lot of junk in it, those begin to appear all over the place, right? Because you have rivers that begin to slow down, and along the edges, you have all these pools forming with debris. They're going to breed in that. Ponds and lakes, they start drying up all along the edges. You'll see all these little pockets and pools forming. That's where these mosquitoes are going to breed. They're going to be breeding. So usually in droughts, and we've had a drought, especially last summer, these mosquitoes do really well. Now, we try to treat the basins, and the basins are covered, but all the other areas that they're breeding in, we tell people, you gotta be on the alert for that. Sometimes in drying lakes, you'll see all the junk that people have dumped in there in the past years. Okay, maybe not in Raleigh, but in other places. All the tires, all the old refrigerators that got dumped in, well, these are wonderful receptacles to hold water. And then the Culex pipiens are gonna be breeding in that. So if we have a drought, a serious drought, I think we're in for trouble. If it's a hot summer, I think we're in for trouble. So that's my 2 cents worth. But like I said, I feel it's my responsibility to be pessimistic.
And what are the species that carry, like you've only talked about the pipiens.
Okay,
But what are the other ones that are the bad ones?
the bad species, well, we have the mosquitoes that pick up the virus from the birds and pass on to humans. Culex pipiens is a principal vector in that regards. There's a mosquito that's becoming abundant right now. It's called the salt and pepper or cattail swamp mosquito. They're fairly big, they're active sometimes in the middle of the day. They normally don't transmit virus, but if they bite an infected bird and get infected, they can then pass the infection on to you. Okay? So that mosquito is very active right now. It's probably the most abundant mosquito we have. Salt marsh mosquitoes, surprisingly, we have not found infected with virus. Okay? So you're lucky with that, but again, I always try to send those to be tested because you never know. Okay? There's a mosquito active now that's a very black mosquito with large white bands on its legs. It's called the Japanese rock pool mosquito, Aedes japonicus. That species has been shown in a laboratory to transmit West Nile and Triple A, and we have picked up on occasion some of those mosquitoes infected with virus. Those mosquitoes are human-biting mosquitoes and love to go after humans to bite. So these black mosquitoes, Aedes japonicus, the salt and pepper mosquito or cattail swamp mosquito. It's got a horrendous name of Popliteia perturbans. That one's very active now. That one can be
Perturbans.
perturbans.
Yep.
That one can be a possible vector. And then there's Culex pipiens. So those are the key species to be aware of.
Well, Esteban, thank you very much.
Well,
It's been a great presentation.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you for your time and attention, and thank you for asking me. And I hope
Very nice, thank you.
if your viewers have any questions, again, if your viewers have any questions, they can always call us
Yep.
at our office, and we'll try to answer the questions the best we can. And if you find that you've been sent to voicemail, leave a message because we do return all the calls. All right? You are our funding base. You are our customers. We have to answer to you, and we love doing that. So,
Thank you.
okay,
Thank you
thanks
so
again.
much.
Okay.
Should we take 5 minutes to a little break?
All set?
Okay, 7:30.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, we can do that. All right, so we're back after that interesting presentation. Next on the agenda is our annual meeting to reorganize the board and kind of decide who's going to run the meetings and be the clerk. So it's open for
I make a motion that Charlie remains chairman.
Charlie. Who?
Costello.
Oh,
Second, I'm happy with the way it is in view of my somewhat frequent absences.
well, so anyone want to second that?
Second.
I made the motion, he seconded it.
Oh, all right. So all those in favor?
Right.
Aye,
All right, and that will be that.
aye.
And then
If you accept this, if you want this, Charlie.
Yeah, I guess I will. And then for a clerk, we need,
Susan, I think, would be the best choice.
and I would second that for our clerk position. All those in favor?
Right.
Aye, and so Susan will be our clerk.
Okay.
And we move to the next item. Letter to the board requesting a review fee waiver.
Yes, In your packet, Mr. Chairman, there's a letter there.
Speak up now,
Yeah,
Frank.
there's a letter in there if you want to read it, or if you'd like to.
Well, let's see, this is the first one, topic A. All right, well, maybe we can just kind of do a synopsis. So, this is a request, requesting relief from our reviewing fee for a septic system repair on Summer Street. This person would like to waive the charges for the additional bedrooms, as the health agent is familiar with the property and design, and we have submitted plans and the revised system is cost effective. What, you give us the history on that?
Yeah, sure. What happened, there was a plan submitted for this 15-bedroom.
5 bedroom.
Well, the total was 15
Oh,
bedrooms.
50.
Yeah,
Oh, all
15
right.
altogether. So perk testing was done, the plan was designed, fees were paid. Then it came time for installation, and it was realized that it was going to be very costly to install the system. So the engineer decided to find another location on the lot to design it, the same system but in a different location that would be a little less expensive. And that's basically where we are. Perk testing was done again in a new location, those fees were paid. The $200 review fee was paid for the new plan. But like I said, the applicant is looking for some relief on those additional bedrooms, the fee for the additional bedrooms on the second submittal.
So he owes a $500.
Refund?
No, it hasn't been paid yet. The $200 general review fee for a normal 5-bedroom or less design has been paid. But because it was the same lot, similar design, just in a different location, he was looking for some relief for the additional bedrooms.
Well, I don't understand why, if the work was done for just the 5-bedroom design and the septic was accepted and approved for that, why do they need relief?
Well, the design was done for 15 bedrooms.
Oh, I know the design
Oh.
was, but the perk test and everything was done on a different part of the property.
Right.
So they haven't paid for the 50.
No, they did pay originally the 700.
Oh, they did,
first
I
submittal.
asked for that, I asked that. and you
Oh, I
said no.
apologize, yeah.
All right.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, so it means that we have to give them a refund.
No, we wouldn't refund that. They're just looking for relief for paying an additional 700.
Oh, all right, okay.
For the second submittal.
All right, okay. All right, I understand that.
Yeah.
So, well, what does the board think? Are we in favor?
That sounds reasonable.
Sounds reasonable to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Yeah, the plan is approvable. It's just about ready to be approved. It's just, we're waiting for the,
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
for the fee part.
So, let's see, what's next up is, the review of our plan with the Northeast Mosquito Management District.
Yep.
And just give us we're familiar with the plan.
Yep.
So we got a presentation a few weeks ago.
Yep.
And we have a draft plan that we reviewed.
Correct.
Why don't you give us a quick,
Yeah, like you said, Jack had given us the draft of the best management practice plan for Raleigh and also the vector management plan. And he was here at your last meeting to talk about things, if you wanted any changes. Basically, he was saying there were very few changes from last year, just some minor tweaks that he had made. And he had left it for you to review and to approve, if you like. And this can be changed anytime throughout the year, so if we find that something's not working, we can always
well,
change
but,
it.
yeah, but we've been very happy with this basic plan
Mhm.
that we revised, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago we came up with.
Right.
But I can speak for myself, we're pretty happy with Esteban and Jack Card and the whole Northeast Mosquito people.
I think they're very forthcoming with information. Their heads are just filled with it, and I think it's been good for us to learn as much as we can.
And they're responsive, they
Yeah.
respond to our telephone calls.
We do?
and-
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, yeah.
And when the trouble comes, which is always from August 15th to usually October 1st, we're back and forth. I wouldn't say, well, maybe you're daily, but I'm certainly every week dealing with what they want to do and telling us of what's going on. So it's a very good use of our money.
They make themselves available, I think, quite readily.
Yeah, the plans are geared toward the whole district mostly, but
Right.
there is a section that's specific to Raleigh that you review every year.
Yep.
So if you're happy with it, you can vote.
So, can we have a motion to accept this plan for the next fiscal year?
Yes, I move to accept the 2013 mosquito management and vector management plan for this year.
I will second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next thing is the Town Water Department Emergency Management Plan.
Yep. You'll see in front of you, Mr. Chairman, the plan. The water department did drop that off to several departments, and we wanted to make sure that the board is aware that it's complete and in the office. Like I said, it goes to several departments. It includes response protocols for emergency situations, from routine problems to minor emergencies, natural disasters, terrorist attacks. There's contact information in there, system information in there.
And this was part of the kind of agreement that the town that the town didn't have a plan, but they were. And we've looked at this, and
Yeah.
you've reviewed it.
Yeah, and
We see it here.
It's there if anyone would like to see it, but it's very thorough, very detailed. And if there are any changes that happen, whether there's updated contact information, that page will be updated and given to the departments, and the page will be replaced. So it's continuously being updated as things change.
So, can we vote to?
Will we move to accept, you think? Do we recommend?
Yeah, it's just more for your information that it's
Oh, we don't
available.
have- okay.
Yeah,
All right.
it's the water department.
It exists.
It exists, yeah. They just want to make sure that the board was aware that
Yeah.
it's finished,
Okay.
it's here, and.
So it's not a votable issue?
No.
Who did this? Who did this plan? Is this from the state or
No, from the staff at the water
the
department.
staff at the
I
water?
believe, yes. Yeah. But I believe the state assisted in what needs to be in there.
Okay,
I will note that.
very important.
At our next meeting, we haven't set the date yet, but I have invited a representative from the water department to come and give us an update on how the water treatment plant system is progressing. So
Oh, that's good.
once we set, and that's, continuing with our theme of before every meeting, we'll have a 30-minute info session. So our next meeting, which will be maybe late August or mid-August, we'll have,
That'd be fine.
not in Florida
No,
now?
I'm around.
Good.
We'll do that. So anyway, along those lines, and they've been alerted and they're looking forward to it, so. And I understand that the building of the new treatment plant is moving on very swiftly, ahead of schedule. So,
Wonderful.
yeah, and we'll have some pictures, and so it'll be a joint meeting to present what's going on.
It's important. I mean, the water is the issue. I mean,
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, next is, this tobacco control program. And they do their periodic checking.
Yep.
Yep, and they found a couple things, and somebody, they're doing their job.
Yeah, so what do you have to say, kind of as a
Yeah.
summary of their
Yeah, like John said.
helpful report?
Yep, like John said, every year we do, with the state, we do compliance checks on all our tobacco retailers in town. We have 9 altogether. And this year they were done on June 7th. We did have a couple of sales to minors, unfortunately.
Speak up?
Yep. We had a couple of sales to minors. I did talk to the owners and the managers there, along with Ron Burgard, who's the director of the Healthy Communities Tobacco Control Program, about it. It wasn't the owner, it was one of the employees. It was a mistake. They, you know, but we talked to them and, you know, stressed how important it is to.
Well, ultimately, it is the owner.
Right. For they need to train their employees a little.
It is the owner. It's their license.
Right. Like I said, we sent a letter out saying, you know, what had happened, and actually after the sale, Ron does go right into the store with and talks to the owner and the person that made the sale about what happened,
So
and that
the
they'll
bo-
be in contact with us. And
So the bottom line is you followed up with this group,
yeah,
Ron, the state group, and information has been shared with the 2 different places. They've got to tighten up, and the employees have been told to be more strict with what they do.
careful.
We'll keep an eye on it, and both businesses have been told that future infractions will result
Right.
in fines.
Are they tracked? I mean, for repeat violations?
Yeah, our regulations do call out a fine even in the first sale, but in the past, where the board has voted to waive that fine, but it's up to you. Actually, we're looking for some direction on how you want to proceed, if you wanted to.
Let's talk about that in the next meeting.
Well, it's my thinking that we received this report. You were told, because you reported it to me, you were told to follow up with the 2 different businesses, clarify people involved, the employees involved, point it out, tell them that in the future we're going to be watching, and go from there. Right?
I think that's sufficient.
Yeah. Okay, so the next thing is, our kind of a summary report of our septic loan program.
Okay. Yes, just to let you know, we are drawing down the final $200,000 from our $750,000 that we borrowed a few years ago. In total, we borrowed $1,250,000 so far since the start of the program. And this last 200 will finish the second borrowing. The process is about 68 loans so far, and it's been running very smooth. And you'll see in front of you, there's the paperwork for the drawdown. You'll see some of the projects and some of the projected costs for those projects, and which is where that 200 will be going potentially. And like I said, that'll complete everything that we borrowed thus far.
So, does that mean, is it time to request more?
It's something to start thinking about, yeah.
We'll start thinking about it. So do we have to go to town meeting?
Yes, probably next
So-
year.
So
give
is
us
there a
some-
fall town meeting scheduled, or?
I'm not 100% sure if they're gonna have one. or
Well,
not.
why don't you put that on your list
Yeah.
to check? If there's a fall town meeting, we should shoot for an article to request the authorization to keep this bank, the septic loan bank, solvent. And if not, we'll do it in the spring.
Right. We figured we'd keep an eye on how things were going in the next few months and
Yeah.
make a decision if you would like to borrow more and how much.
Yeah.
And like I said, whether it's the fall, I'm not sure if it has to be done at the annual or if we can do it at special. I'll have to find
We'll
out.
find out.
Um,
Good, because it's been a good program.
Excellent. It's nice that we can do things to help people get into compliance with what needs to be done.
Right.
Even picking up refrigerators in May, getting rid of receptacles for water. It's a
Right.
really good thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think this is a wonderful thing.
All right, so let's see, now we go to the review of our bills. In the minutes, we can be quickly reviewing the minutes while we're doing the bills. All done?
We'll go through.
Any issues you can talk about while we're doing this paperwork?
No, I think we covered everything.
Excuse me. So the next thing is the minutes. We were all here at the last meeting, or this meeting with the minutes, April 8th. Is everyone in agreement with these minutes? We want to move to accept them as our
I
minutes
will
from the
accept
8th.
the minutes of April 8th.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Okay. Susan, if you sign yours and
Okay.
pass it on. Now, next meeting date. What, are we thinking, let's see. What do you think, Frank? Should we certainly meet sometime in
Phil.
mid to late August?
Yeah, whatever you think, sure.
12th. That work?
Yep, works with me.
12th?
August 12th.
Susan, 12th,
Yep,
okay?
that's fine.
So our next meeting will be August 12th. And our featured guests that night for our first part of the meeting will be the Raleigh Water Department to give us a brief summary of our new treatment plant.
Represented by whom?
Well, I don't know.
be one of the board members? or-
No, I left it up to whoever they want to send. It's good. So, I think that's it. Are there any concerns of the board? Anybody heard anything around town of
Nothing,
upsetting?
no,
No?
quiet.
All right, well, I think maybe we should ask for a motion to close the meeting.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting at 8:34 on July 1st, 2013.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Thank you.